Let's summarise how we're going to be dealing with payroll transactions and remind us how the wages control account is supposed to work. And remember, the idea of all of these control accounts is that these are temporary holding places for transactions to help us analyse them and sort them out and make sure that everything is okay. Ultimately, anything that goes into a control account should come out again so that there's nothing left inside, and that means that everything has been dealt with. So with payroll, it can be quite confusing because we have so many different types of transaction and bits of terminology. So we have the gross pay, and that's the total amount that's in an employee's contract, and that's how much we should be paying them. But we know we're going to be making a variety of deductions, so they'll only actually receive the net pay. And we're going to be deducting things like income tax, but the employee will also have their pension contributions deducted as well. So their net pay will be after a variety of these deductions. But there's also some things that the employer will have to contribute as well on top of the gross pay. So the employer will need to make some national insurance contributions. But the employee will also have to deduct those from their pay also. And then the employer will need to make some pension contributions on top of the employee's contributions. But also the employee may have other things being deducted, like their union subscriptions, for example, and their student loan deductions, and they may be paying some maintenance through the child support agency, and they may be participating in a save-as-you-earn scheme. So there's lots of different transactions, and it all makes it quite confusing, and that's why we need to use the wages control account, because we need to put all these transactions into that control account and sort out what's going on. So ultimately, on the credit side of the control account will be what our expense is, and there'll be different types of those expense. But on the debit side, we're going to be working out how much should we pay to the employees, to the tax authorities, to the pension fund, to the union, to the student loan company, to the child support agency, or whomever. So let's just remind ourselves of how this is going to work. So we have our T accounts, and imagine this is also flowing from the right hand side. We have our expense, and we're going to put our expense into the control account, and then from the control account we're going to work out who we're going to pay. So let's suppose then that we have our gross pay, and that's going to be an expense for the business. So let's suppose we have our gross pay of 100, and what we need to do is just put that immediately into the control account. So you can see there's our debit and credit, and we're flowing from the right hand side to the middle. And then what we need to do is work out, okay, well there's that gross pay of 100, and we now need to analyse that to who's going to get what. So we know that there's going to be some income tax, and let's suppose that's going to be 20. We know that we got to deduct some national insurance contributions from that, let's suppose that's 8. And we know that there's going to be some pension as well, let's suppose that's 3. So that means that ultimately we're going to have our net pay, so that's the pay after all of these deductions, of 69. So there we see what we've done with the control account. We've taken the gross of 100 and we've just analysed that between the different payees. And now what we need to do, so we've done those debits, so we need to do the corresponding credits, and that's going to flow through onto the left-hand T accounts. So yeah, we've got our net pay of 69, so yeah, that needs to go into the bank. And then we have the next T account is the HMRC payables, how much are we going to pay to the tax authorities, and that's going to be a combination of the tax and the national insurance. So we've got from our wages control account a total of 28 that we need to pay onto the tax authorities. And then from the pension company, so yeah, from our wages control account, we see that we need to pay them 3. So there we see now the wages control account has been emptied. So we had our original expense of 100, we've analysed that between the different payees, and now we've put that in the various payees T accounts. But On top of this 100 expense, we know that we also need to pay some national insurance as well. So the employer needs to pay some national insurance. So let's suppose that's going to be, let's say 13. So again, there's our debit in the expense, because that's part of the cost of employing somebody, but we need to put that into the control account. Now in this case, we don't need to analyse this between any of the different groups, because that's all going to be part of national insurance. So that means we can change the 8 on the debit side to a 21. So again, our wages control account still balances. That's an easy analysis in this case, and that needs to be paid to the tax authorities. So in the middle T account on the left hand side, so we've got 28 there, but we need to add 13 to that. So we now owe the tax authorities 41. So again, you can see how the transactions are flowing from right to left, but all going through the wages control account where we're sorting things out. Now what else do we need to do? Again, this is simplified. We don't have any student loans or anything to deal with here, but we do know that, let's say they have to pay some pension. Okay, so there's going to be some pension, and let's suppose that's going to be a further cost of 5. So that's again a further expense to the business. If we employ someone, we have to pay their wages, we have to pay some national insurance, and we need to contribute to their pension fund, okay, by using the auto-enrollment system. So again, that's a credit, but we need to have the corresponding debit, don't we? So we need to have a credit in the wages control account. And again, the purpose of this control account is to sort things out. Well, again, this is one simple transaction now. We can just add this to the pension. So we see on the debit side we've got 3, and that's going to become an 8. And then similarly, now we've put that debit in the control account, we need the corresponding credit in the pension payable. So that 3 is also going to change to an 8. So hopefully you can see now what's happening with this wages control account. Everything is flowing through it and being sorted into the various organisations to whom we need to pay some money.